There goes.
Unbelievable.
2023 was the hottest year on record, and by a huge margin. We see ever-increasing extreme weather events, floods, droughts, storms, and sea level rise affecting billions of people worldwide.
Well, the storm surge is flexing.
I'm Timo Leiter, and I research how governments prepare for the impacts of climate change. My research draws strongly on observations at the UN climate change negotiations, which means that I study how global environmental negotiations actually work. The majority of countries have a national adaptation plan, but my research shows that 60% of them don't track its implementation. That can lead to a false sense of progress because having a plan doesn't mean it's being implemented.
Thank you very much. So now I'm shifting from the moderator's hat to the actual expert hat.
In 2022 and 2023, I co-facilitated the workshop series under the United Nations, working with negotiators, facilitating discussions, moderating workshops, and helping negotiators to convert their positions. This work has contributed directly to the adoption of a new global framework consisting of 11 targets, including that all parties by 2030 need to have designed and established a system to monitor, evaluate and learn from their national climate change adaptation efforts.
Infrastructure, cities, coastal zones are resilient.
Cristina Rumbates del Rio works at the UN Foundation, and we facilitated the workshop series on the adaptation policy framework together.
This is the first time ever that we have a global agreement and targets around adaptation to climate change. Said we want sanitation and water, climate resilient water management for all. We want food security and nutrition for all in spite of the impacts of climate change. And so there's some stakes in the ground that we now have. And I think what Timo brings in particular is some incredible foresight, putting a finger on these are the key questions that need to be addressed to move forward. And he's in touch and able to understand where countries are at, what concerns they might have, including the ones that are unexpressed often.
In the UK, I worked with colleagues at DEFRA and looked at their adaptation plans. We introduced a new approach that helped every department to develop its own adaptation pathway with objective and actions. And as a result, the UK's national adaptation programme is much more robust.
What he has is a really good overview of the academic side, but also what's happening in countries and across the world, and an insight into sort of the practical, the application of some of these theories and methodologies. And what he really helped us do was not just think about the indicators, but the entire process of developing adaptation plans and thinking about how we can make it more of an iterative process.
My work is ongoing, and I continue to be closely involved in the UN climate change negotiations. The United Nations are now doing an annual assessment report of the state of adaptation, where we are, where we need to go. I contributed to this report, which is now being used by the UN Secretary General in his calls for action. Global targets for climate change adaptation are vital, but they have to be coupled with meaningful ways of tracking progress, and my research has helped to achieve that.